Imagine an evening in Central Europe. Long lines at gas stations stretch for dozens of cars. On the price boards, numbers flicker. And right before drivers' eyes, digits are rewritten upward. People argue, honk, some film what's happening on their phones. Consumer-level panic is always the most honest indicator that the crisis is no longer a forecast, but reality. The fact remains, strikes on oil refineries and the Druzhba pipeline caused the stoppage of fuel pumping in Hungary and Slovakia. Czech refineries have already reported reduced volumes. At first glance, a technical failure, but its consequences instantly grew into a domino effect. First, logistics disruptions. Then, a surge in oil and gas prices. And finally, consumer panic. Coincidence? Hardly. That same morning, 6 o'clock, EU monitoring systems confirm the Druzhba line, the largest oil pipeline in Eastern Europe, has been damaged. Polish and Slovak stations have halted pumping. Hungary tries to calm the public. We have reserves for several weeks, but even that statement sounds like an admission that time is short. Just a few hours later, another wave. Markets react instantly. Brent crude jumps 7% in just 3 hours. American WTI follows upward. Gas futures in the Netherlands soar by 11%. Financial analysts call it a perfect storm. But behind the scenes, insiders insist this is only the first jolt. The real crisis will begin when global market players start using the situation to pressure Europe. Major corporations, Shell, BP, ExxonMobil, Total Energies, warn of supply disruptions. Publicly, they use neutral wording, but everyone understands. If Europe fails to act urgently, oil and gas supply chains could rupture not only here, but far beyond the continent. Then the domino effect will hit food, transport and industry. 10:30 in the morning, Brussels. Alarm bells ring. The European Commission's Energy Committee convenes an emergency meeting. Germany demands access to strategic gas reserves. Poland declares a state of heightened readiness. The Czech Republic and Slovakia warn their citizens of rising fuel prices. But the loudest is Hungary. Budapest accuses Brussels of failing coordination and hints it's time to negotiate directly with the US and China. And this is where it gets most interesting. Two global giants enter the game. The United States, through Chevron and ExxonMobil, declares, "We can insure Europe, but at a premium price." China's Sinopec and PetroChina respond with their own move. They are ready to cover the deficit, but only with long-term contracts. Europe finds itself in an energy fork, fast but expensive supplies from the US, or long-term dependence on China. And now the main question. Is it a coincidence that this crisis coincides with negotiations on new trade deals? Or is someone deliberately using the situation to consolidate influence? Evening. Chaos reigns on the streets of Warsaw and Bratislava. Lines at Shell and BP gas stations stretch for hundreds of meters. People argue, some abandon their cars right on the roadside just to hold a spot on foot. Eyewitnesses say that at some stations 40 to 50 cars wait in line. Prices are being changed right in front of customers. The digits leap upward every few minutes. The psychological effect works faster than economics. People fear tomorrow's shortages and rush to fill up today, even if fuel is already more expensive than in the morning. Panic transforms disruptions into a full-blown crisis. The fact remains, mass distrust in the stability of the system is the worst enemy of any energy market. By 10 p.m. on the first day, Europe is already living in shock mode. Fuel reserves are limited, contracts with the US and China are drawing closer. And as the final touch, a new looming threat, the Strait of Hormuz. 1/3 of the world's oil and almost a quarter of liquefied gas passes through this narrow passage in the Persian Gulf. The International Energy Agency warns even 10 days of blockade would be enough to push Brent above $150 per barrel. This is not just a price spike, it is an apocalyptic scenario for Europe, which is already heavily dependent on imports. And here arises the key question: who can block the Strait of Hormuz? Formally, Iran, since it controls part of the strait's territory and has the forces to close it. But insiders insist the real danger may not come from a direct strike, but from a chain of accidental provocations. Drone explosions, attacks on tankers, cyber attacks on navigation systems. Coincidence that tensions in the region are rising right now? Hardly. Now imagine the reaction of global markets. Asia, India, Japan would begin buying up every available barrel on the spot market. Europe would find itself in the position of a losing player, left with only two options: overpay or freeze industries. And once again, we return to the first day of the crisis. Brussels argues over reserves. Washington and Beijing haggle over influence. And ordinary people stand in lines at gas stations, watching fuel prices climb right before their eyes. This is only the first day of the energy storm, but the loudest question remains: what happens tomorrow if the crisis spreads? The evening of the second day of the crisis. One might think that after 24 hours, Europe would have found answers, but instead of clarity, a new wave of uncertainty emerges. The United States, through Chevron and ExxonMobil, confirms its readiness to increase exports, but the longer the tension lasts, the higher the price climbs. Every premium on a contract means billions of dollars in profit for American corporations. In Washington, they speak of stabilizing the market, but insiders note the crisis brings the US more dividends than any diplomatic success. China responds in its own way. Sinopec and PetroChina come forward with offers of multi-year contracts. The terms are simple. Europe gets fuel but pays with its future, becoming dependent for decades. Beijing thinks strategically, not just extinguishing the fire, but tying Europe's energy to its own supply chains. European analysts call the situation an energy fork. The choice lies between fast but expensive US deliveries and long-term dependence on China. Some experts see this as a dead end, others as the beginning of a new global balance of power. History seems to repeat itself. Recall the 1970s, the oil crisis, when OPEC countries cut off supplies. Back then, the West was paralyzed. Long queues at gas stations, soaring prices, political upheavals. But the difference is that in the 70s, the dependence was on the Middle East, and today Europe finds itself between the hammer and the anvil of two world power centers, the US and China. The fact remains, while Brussels argues internally, outside players gain the advantage. Germany demands reserves be tapped. Poland pressures the European Commission. Hungary looks for its own path and blames Brussels for coordination failures. But no one can present a strategic answer that would free Europe from this trap. Meanwhile, global media circulate maps of the Strait of Hormuz. Reports are accompanied by footage of military boats, satellite images of tankers, and ironic comments from analysts. The fate of Europe's winter is being decided there. And once again arises the question that few dare to voice directly: what if this crisis is not accidental at all? What if energy chaos benefits those who want to keep Europe dependent? Europe is entering a phase of energy turbulence. Disruptions along the Druzhba pipeline, surging oil and gas prices, panic-driven fuel purchases. These are not forecasts, but already visible signals on trading charts and at gas stations. Winter lies ahead, and the key question is, will there be enough resources to get through it without catastrophe? The fact remains, Europe's gas storage is filled to about 75%. Formally, that's sufficient, but lower than in past years. Experts warn, the real issue is not the number itself, but the weather and the stability of supplies. One cold front or one major disruption, and those numbers could turn into an illusion of security. On the markets, the situation is just as fragile. Dutch gas futures swing between 30 and 35 euros per megawatt hour. Any news of disruption immediately adds a new price premium. Investors grow nervous, traders lock in windfall profits, and consumers count every trip to the pump and every electricity bill. The Strait of Hormuz has become a symbol of anxiety. 1/3 of global oil and 1/5 of liquefied gas pass through it. Any blockade, even a short one, would trigger a worldwide price shock. The US has already become the largest LNG supplier to Europe, providing nearly half of imports. Washington now holds a powerful lever of influence. China, meanwhile, is preparing decade-long supply schemes, turning the market into a chessboard where Europe is still just a pawn. Analysts describe 3 scenarios for the coming winter. Base case: if Druzhba supplies are restored within weeks and LNG imports continue, Europe will make it through the winter without catastrophe. Yes, at high prices, but without mass blackouts. The winners will be energy giants: Shell, BP, Total Energies, Siemens Energy, and American LNG exporters. Risk case: the Strait of Hormuz is blocked for at least 10 days. Brent soars above $150. Europe competes with Asia for every tanker. Heating and electricity bills smash records. Industry in some countries halts, and governments think not about climate policy, but about sheer survival. Positive case. The crisis accelerates the shift to renewable energy and storage. Siemens, General Electric, and Tesla receive new orders for energy systems. Europe takes a step toward energy independence. But the effect will come not this winter, but years from now. For ordinary people, it won't help in the here and now. The conclusion is clear. The winter of 2025 to 2026 will be a test of endurance. The base scenario may pass without disaster, but any force majeure, and the situation shifts instantly from expensive to very expensive. And here is the main question that remains unanswered. Can Europe endure this winter, or will we witness a new wave of energy crisis reminiscent of the 1970s?